Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the next installment of Let's Talk Ship. This week we have back with us Cathy Morrow Robertson. Hey, Cathy, thanks for coming back.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. Happy to be back.
Excited to be here talking with you. Just if you weren't with us last time, just to give Cathy a proper intro, Cathy, you spent 11 years at UPS, primarily in supply chain solutions subsidiary, where you were working on market analysis and M&A due diligence, new product development, and then you eventually went to go work for a UK-based logistics research firm for almost 5 years, and then struck out on your own with Logistics Trends and Insights in 2015 and have been very successful. You're a regular contributor on Air Cargo World and Journal of Commerce. I was also just reading a quote of yours on Yahoo Finance this morning. Congratulations on that exposure. But today we're going to talk about one of your favorite topics, which is Amazon.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to keep the intro short because I know there's a lot to get to, and I anticipate that our audience will have some questions. But specifically about Amazon, we're going to talk about, are they going to disrupt shipping just like they disrupted the retail world? So excited to get to that. So I appreciate you coming back.
Sure, happy to do so. Particularly when it comes to Amazon.
Yeah, right? It's a hot topic with many of the customers and prospects that we work with on a day-to-day basis.
Oh my goodness, I can imagine. Yeah.
The fear is there, or
the fear is definitely there from not only from a shipper's perspective, but also from the logistics provider and carrier's perspective. I mean, all around, they've got a lot of folks biting their nails. Trying to strategize on how best to, get ahead of Amazon, which is, so far I haven't seen it.
That's true. I mean, there's so much press out there about Amazon getting into the logistics space. Well, they're in the logistics space, really, but in a small way. But there's lots of PR around their investment in airplanes and drones and air traffic control software to support the drones and parachutes to ensure the drones land somewhere and self-driving vehicles and their sort of Uber-like option too for folks to start their own logistics business underneath the Amazon umbrella. So a lot of press out there, which puts sometimes shippers back on their heels. So I'm interested to get your perspective on that.
Well, first of all, and this is something I've said for years and years, when they first started building out their whole logistics network, is they're going to take care of their own stuff first. Because the big concern was, oh my gosh, they are going to take over FedEx, UPS. They're going to take all their customers away. They're going to, and such as this. And I'm like, no, they're not. Because first of all, e-commerce, there's plenty of packages for everyone. As we noticed last year, there was a capacity crunch. UPS and FedEx and the post office couldn't handle it all. So, we need more providers in this space. But like I said, Amazon's going to take care of their own first from that last mile, whether it's one of their airplanes, whether it's one of their trucks, or they're also a freight forwarder. So, the same thing with ocean freight, international ocean and air as well. So now the big question, though, is, okay, so what if they had extra space on one of those trucks or the airplane or a ship or what have you? That's when I could see them possibly reselling that space. Mm-hmm. As a third-party provider. But is it going to be enough to rival other carriers, FedEx, UPS, or what have you? No, I don't think so. Because I've talked to a few shippers over the past couple of weeks or so, and I've asked them if Amazon came out as a third-party delivery provider, would you be interested in using them? And they all sat there and said no. They wouldn't, because they don't trust them. Because So because whose freight or parcels are going to get bumped first? Theirs, so.
That's right. There's a big risk for many reasons. There's risk in even just selling on Amazon, let alone shipping, allowing them to put your customers' packages in their hands.
Exactly. And while so many of us will beat up on FedEx, UPS, and the post office for various reasons, they are so well respected. They have established networks. People trust them. And yeah, I know the post office they're undergoing a lot of reorganization. There's been a lot of political pressure there, and such. But I think overall, there is still some trust within the post office as well.
Yeah,
so.
It's an American institution.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and there's trust in the FedEx and UPS brand too, Cathy, right? Because there's standards in place.
Exactly.
And I mean, their networks have been built out for decades. And it's clear that Amazon doesn't have it all figured out. I was reading this morning that as we were prepping for this, that they put out some $100,000 reward for groups to figure out the best routing algorithm, which tells me that they haven't quite figured out how to get packages from door to door.
I haven't seen that. Really? Because I thought they have the technology on that pretty much down pat. But I mean, algorithms, come on. All right, so here's snotty Cathy here. So competing, solely on an algorithm never works, because all it's going to take is an 8 or 10-year-old to figure out that algorithm, break it, and you're going to have to change it again. Mm-hmm. So I am not a believer in competing just on technology.
Yeah.
So,
seems like a bit of marketing, but nonetheless, it was out there.
Yeah. Now I got to go and look that up.
Yeah, I'll have to
read more on that. That's interesting. Well, because they are utilizing the data that they're getting through their technology, and that data is, oh my gosh, it's gold. It is absolutely gold. That's why you see UPS and FedEx trying to gather, everybody for that matter, to analyze all this data. I think in the earnings call, Amazon's earnings call from last month, they were noting the importance of the middle mile, connecting that to the last mile, utilizing data to speed up the last mile. The ability to track it in real time, also the notifications to us, the customer. So it's fun watching, getting the notices, your package is like 3 stops away, and you see this little truck, on this real time map. That's awesome. And that's so important, particularly as we adopt e-commerce more and more, to be able to track our packages in real time. And you don't see that with UPS and FedEx. And believe it or not, they both have that capability, but they're not sharing it with the general masses. Okay, I'm going to end up getting a phone call from one or both of them. I'm sorry. But customers do want that. And they don't really want to pay extra for it either. I don't think that's right. But also cutoff times, extending those cutoff times. Amazon's able to do that thanks to data, analyzing their data, connecting the dots between the middle mile and the last mile. And so, shippers are all figuring that out slowly but surely. And but I think Amazon has taken a huge lead in this.
They are. And my hope actually is that technology that you were talking about, Cathy, for real-time traceability is available in the market, not just to FedEx. They have the capability, FedEx and UPS, to build it out or buy it or what have you. Amazon's figured it out. It's going to be readily available in the market to regional carriers to some degree also. And I really hope that catches on, because we're starting to see that is a viable option for a lot of large shippers, if you will. I was talking to a client just this morning who is going to reduce their delivery time by one day delivery, a retailer, by utilizing regionals because of where their DCs are located. And that's just such an attractive option. And, that could be a long-term thing. if they
That's
can figure
true.
out the technology and the data.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've talked to several shippers over the past few weeks, and they're also looking seriously into utilizing the regionals. One, I think, has already using two. They may be picking up a third, if I'm not mistaken. But you're right. You got to also consider where your warehouses are as well, because if your warehouses aren't in those regions that the regional carriers are playing in, it's not going to work. But there are options out there. There's a lot of on-demand fulfillment providers now that perhaps you can shift some of the items into one of those facilities or more than one facility if it's closer to your customer.
Yeah. I'm curious what your perspective is on, I think over the last year or maybe 2 years, Amazon's really doubled down on warehouses, delivery stations, drivers, as they build their logistics department out. But again, it seems to just be servicing their own, their own volume.
Oh yeah, I mean the year. Let's see, what was it? 2019. They changed their Prime promise from free 2-day delivery to free same day or next day delivery. There was hiccups once the pandemic hit, of course, but they've been building out that network to get same day delivery to their Prime members, which, by the way, there's like over 200 million of them, I think, if I'm reading that. Yeah, I believe so. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of them. I'm one. But yeah, so, and they've also noted in their earnings call last month that they're providing 5 hours or less last mile deliveries.
Yeah.
So it's getting faster and faster, and it's following a similar model that you see in China, where you have 30-minute deliveries in certain parts of the country. So, and yeah. So in fact, I got a package within 5 hours of ordering, and I didn't realize that. I was completely shocked because I wasn't expecting that. So yeah. I would have been happy with 2 days, but I'll take 5 hours.
Now you have a new expectation.
Yes, I do. Now I'm expecting them all to be delivered, within the day.
Yeah.
And then eventually probably within an hour. So yeah.
So what are your thoughts, Cathy, on, we all know the story of how Amazon disrupted the retail space and the disruption that just Amazon as a company brings, not just to logistics or retail, but other spaces too. What are your thoughts on their disruption on parcel shipping in the United States? I know you had a couple of other thoughts the other day on the importance of data in that middle mile.
Now, data is very important to manage that last mile. I mean, that's something that, I was talking to some folks yesterday, and one of the things that really stuck out in my mind from last year was it really put the last mile on the map. Okay, that sounds corny, but most people never really thought much about it until their packages took a month or 2 months or never, to deliver. And for some shippers, I mean, there was an absolute shock last year when FedEx or UPS or the post office was coming back to them saying, we can't give you the number of trailers that you want, that you need. We're having to cut your capacity because we don't have the space. And by the way, we're going to add a surcharge on for you. So that was when it really hit home for a lot of folks. And that's when you also started seeing 3PLs and tech providers start thinking that we need to have alternatives. We've got to have alternative options here. So they started building out. I mean, we've seen Geodis building out last mile. Seiko Logistics is doing the same thing. And then we've got various fulfillment providers. Stored, which is based here in the Atlanta area. They have a unique network. ShipBob is building out one as well. And it's going to be interesting to see all these last mile networks in play because they're all relying on crowdsourced platforms for the most part. So they're all relying on the same providers for that last mile, but we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and also, it came out yesterday in the Walmart earnings that Walmart is finally testing their own last mile.
Yep.
And this is one in which it is a Walmart branded van driven by a Walmart employee delivering goods. And they're testing this in Arkansas right now. So, will they finally build out their own nationwide last mile network? That would be super awesome, in my opinion. Be a long time coming for a company that's always been so highly respected for their supply chain and logistics capabilities. So we'll see.
Yeah. Target, same thing. They're working on it.
Exactly. But they're utilizing their subsidiary that they bought a few years ago, Ship. And Ship is a crowdsourced platform. They depend on folks like you and me to do that last mile delivery. Mm-hmm. So it's a slight difference there. But
yeah, I think it speaks to the trend, though. Like you started talking about, Amazon they're building out that last mile. And by the way, they call it a last mile revolution on their website to try to get folks to come work for them, which I thought was comical. But yeah. They're building those things, Amazon, Walmart, Target, to service their own clients.
Exactly. And this is very similar to those companies that have their own dedicated trucking fleet as well. Mm-hmm. It's very comparable where they're moving, goods in maybe from the ports or airports and their own trucks. It's the same thing for the last mile. So yeah. So and I don't see Walmart reselling any space on anything. Yeah. And I don't think Target will either. So that's one of the reasons why I don't see Amazon doing the same for a whole lot either. And because I think they're going to always have a dependency on third-party logistics providers, whether they're UPS or one of the truck carriers, the rail, because they're very, they utilize the rail networks here as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with that, and I think that if I'm a marketer at heart, and a lot of this I think is about brand. They want to service their own brand. They want to make sure that their customers are happy and loyal to their brand. They want their trucks on the road with their logo, not going to back of an unmarked Uber van.
Exactly. And I think the marketing, customer experience, customer service, that goes all the way up to your front door. I think we talked about this the last time, if I'm not mistaken. It does go up to your front door. And also it may start with your front door when you're returning items. So yeah, I think the branding and all of that is very important. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you also need to learn, be aware of that, understand that, as you read all these articles that are out there about how, Amazon should acquire FedEx, things such as that. Those were hilarious. I mean, when those were coming out, last year or year before, because it was like, no, that does not make sense. So anyway.
Will there be a third player that emerges in the market? Potentially. I think my personal take on it is that it's probably not going to be Amazon.
I don't. I've written about the possibility of them being that third player. They could if they wanted to. However, the whole trust thing, like we've talked about today, it's going to be a big hindrance. Way back in the day, don't think you would remember, but DHL did try.
Yeah.
They did try, and they ended up pulling out of the domestic U.S. market after losing something like $10 billion because UPS and FedEx, they're tough. They're tough to compete against, and they're not going to take it laying down when a potential third player comes in. But I also think DHL they could possibly be return as a third potential. DHL ECommerce, they've grown a lot in this market, and they partner up with a variety of last mile providers, but they have that DHL name, so they service you around the world, by connecting with DHL Air, DHL Supply Chain, DHL Freight Forwarding, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and they've done well. We have a couple of clients on our roster that are working with DHL ECommerce, and it's affordable and easy to use, and they're not having trouble with SLAs, with the end customer and then meeting their delivery KPIs. So
exactly, I've heard some good things about them. So yeah. So even through the holiday season, when everything seemed to be falling apart for everyone, they seem to be they had things well organized, from what I understand.
Yeah. So I hope that we've been able to remove some of that fear, Cathy, about Amazon over, getting into shipping and disrupting just like they did retail. But I do think it's time for shippers, especially large shippers, and we've got a couple of them here listening today. It's time to start making those plans ahead of the guarantees and the information the carriers are going to be asking you for here in the next couple of weeks. I think they'll probably ramp up some of those capacity guarantees, both UPS and FedEx, earlier than they ever have. So usually they'd come to you July timeframe and you'd work it out by October. But I think carriers are starting to ask now, and we're going to have this. Shippers are going to have it figured out by July, August at the latest.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that forecasting and what they need for the peak season is sooner they can take care of that and lock in the capacity, the better off they'll be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we've got a couple of minutes left, and we've got a couple of questions that came in relative to Amazon for you. One of the questions that came in, Cathy, is, if I'm a seller on Amazon, what are the risks of using Amazon logistics?
I think the first thing I would say would be the cost, and I think it's going to depend, on the seller or the business, but weigh your cost, how much you're having to pay FedEx, and look at other options out there, because there's a lot of options. They seem to keep increasing. We keep talking about FedEx and UPS, but they're targeting small to medium-sized businesses. They both have options that might be of interest. Shopify. I hope they're not just sellers on Amazon. I hope they are diversifying by using selling on other platforms such as Shopify, eBay, Walmart Plus, and so on.
Mm-hmm. And the other risks are just that there's no time guarantee when you're shipping with Amazon. If you're a seller, there's no delivery standards. A package could show up any way that it wants, because most of those in their logistics, especially that last mile delivery, they're contractors who've just signed up to be a part of the program.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, another question was wanted to touch on middle mile. So what are you seeing? What kind of investments in middle mile are you seeing with Amazon?
Okay, well, they're expanding their air network. Okay. So within just the past week or so, we've seen announcements that they've expanded into Pittsburgh and Kansas City. What they're doing is they're going into these tier 2 type of airports, the ones that are closer to their fulfillment facilities, so that they can get that last mile faster, hopefully 5 hours or less. But so they're expanding and they're investing in their air network. They're investing and they're connecting, like I said, they're connecting the dots through technology between that middle mile to that last mile. The cutoff dates for pickup. Also, it also goes up to the order fulfillment, so they know what fulfillment facility inventory should be going into. So they'll direct that part as well. So, a lot of it is that technology. They're also utilizing trucks, not the vans, not the last mile, but they also have a fleet of trucks that are going back and forth from fulfillment facilities to these last mile hubs and such as that. So, again, the technology is guiding a lot of this for them.
Yeah. So there's a couple of questions around this, and I was a part of a discussion yesterday, and every single retailer that was on this call, and there's about 20 of them, sustainability was a topic. Mm-hmm. So one of the questions is, what is Amazon doing to reduce the environmental footprint?
Well, they have an investment in, Rivian, the electric vehicle startup, and they're utilizing this. They've ordered, I don't know how many of these vans, but they've introduced them into various cities so far for that last mile. So Oklahoma City was the latest from the last I've read. I think San Francisco, parts of LA, and so on. So they're slowly introducing these electric vehicles. They're also, doing drones. And they're looking at doing drones within the middle mile as well, which means instead of using a gas-powered vehicle, they could use an electric drone to move, and these are heavier drones, to move items from one fulfillment facility to the next if need be, or to a delivery hub to just get those cars and trucks off the road.
Mm-hmm. That would certainly speed up that middle mile for them.
I think so. A lot of companies are doing this. I think UPS is looking into this, that they've invested in a larger, I keep calling them drones, but they're really electric planes. Is what they are, just a larger version. So you're going to see a lot more of that from other providers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got time for one last question, and it was something that we touched on earlier. It said, do we really need 5-hour deliveries? Maybe for emergency, but do people really need their stuff in 5 hours?
Not for me, because I will just happily get in the car to get the item if I really need something. But that's me. Yeah, I mean,
medication, I can see, a play for that, but
it's going to depend on the item.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a lot. Like I said, I was surprised. I did not expect the item in 5 hours, less than 5 hours. It was nice, but am I going to expect that? I'm really not going to expect that moving forward. Because sure as the day, the one item that I want delivered within an hour or two is not going to be available. So I'm not going to get my hopes up.
I will say this. My husband's not listening, thank goodness, and he knows this about me anyway, but I'm the one in the store on Valentine's Day, like trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So if I forget the birthday gift or forget the anniversary gift, 5-hour delivery might be for me, but
well, that's a good point. Because you're talking to someone else. Yeah, I'm the one that forgets our wedding anniversary. So yeah, that would come in handy that way for sure.
Yeah. Well, Cathy, thank you so much for joining me again. To our audience, thank you very much for all of your questions. You will be getting a follow-up email after this. If you're interested in a professional Ship Talker pen from our team, all you have to do is reply to that email to receive one. Our next session will be on June 17th. We will have one of our partner guests in the LTL space joining us. So be on the lookout for your invite to the next Let's Talk Ship episode. Cathy, thanks so much again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care.
You too.